Hi guys, today I'd like to show you how to create a process recipe in Capture One, which will help you to create subfolders while you're processing, which will ultimately relate to the rating you have given your images. This will really help you, especially if you have to hand in files to a client and you want to make sure that all you have to deliver is just a bunch of smaller JPEGs, and you really want to give them the option to look over this whole session without having to own a Capture One license and making sure that they can see what you have rated, maybe even what you've not rated so far, so they can really narrow down what they like, as well as just helping you out creating a neat folder structure for your exports. So let's go ahead and look into this process recipe. I'm using this a ton as it's really helpful to give clients an overview of the whole session. I usually export everything, and what I'll end up with is a neat folder structure with subfolders for 0 stars, 1 stars, 2 stars, and so on, everything which we created. So let's click into the process recipe in Basic in here, and you'll see that I have JPEGs, and I guess that's what you want to go for, especially if you want to create lots of processed files. Then you really just stick to the JPEG, maybe even tame down the quality a little bit, and make sure that you use the sRGB color space profile so these files look fine on all devices which don't support the full Adobe RGB color space, and will also look fine in web. And in my case, I opt to have them not that big as well, as it's usually quite a lot of files and that's really enough for most clients. So then just make sure that the open width is empty and you don't open all these files in Photoshop or anything else. I also just want to mention on the side that please make sure that these here you always leave out unless you're really specific about doing something which acts globally on all your recipes. Usually there's no need to change this. The output naming should always be image name, so you don't actually change the name. And the output location, you also wouldn't want to necessarily change in here as it's a global change, and we'd really want to go in and change this in here. This might be a little bit confusing first, therefore, as you have this doubled up really. So we want to ignore this and we want to have a look into this file. So we leave this at output location as we want to make use of the output folder Capture One creates for us. And where really the magic happens is the subfolder. Now I'll show you what it really does for us. So in this case, the first subfolder I will just call JPEGs rating. So it's clear what's following up in this folder, as we might have a few folders with, let's say, TIFFs and medium JPEGs and whatnot. So, and every time you follow up with a /, this will give you another subfolder. So in this case, we follow up with an image folder name, and this really gives you a bit more structure again, especially if you work in a few folders in your session and you don't want all of these ratings to be mixed up. So in this case, you can see, I'll just show you quickly, I have 2 folders in this case, and these 2 folders also relate to the naming I have in here. So I utilize these subfolders every time in my naming, so everything is clear. And in this case, I also want to make sure that as soon as I process these files, that it's clear as well, and that I have a subfolder according to my subfolder which I previously created. This in the naming tool tab, just as a side note, will be called destination folder name. It's just different in here, it's image folder name. So then we again follow up with a / and we can add the rating token. You can find all of these in here and you can just drag them in. Just to be a bit more clear, it's good to end this with a stars, as the rating token will only create a number as a folder. So let's say you process a file with a 1-star rating, that file will be in a folder called 1. If you leave it just with a rating token. So that's why it's nice to add this on the end, and this will actually make a folder which would be 1 stars. So that's just more clear, especially if you give this to a client or you just like a bit more clarity. So let's hit OK. Let's create a few different ratings before we export these files. Let's make a 3-star here. Let's make a 4-star here. Let's have this 0. And let's make another 5-star. We'll select a bunch of these and hit Command D. Obviously make sure always that this is selected so you don't get that error message. Hit Command D, and we're processing right now. And to show you the thing with the first subfolder, I'll export a few of these files as well from the other folder. And yes, that's great. We already have a few different ratings. And we'll process these too. Great. So let's have a look. So you can see this is the JPEGs ratings folder, and this is what we created all automatically without having to do this by hand. And you can see in every folder there's an image according to the ratings. This here ended up in there twice because we have a variant actually. And you can see everything is neatly organized with just one press of a button. All you have to do really is to set this up once, and you're really set up for any situation where you might need this structure. So guys, that wraps this video up. If you liked this and you want to support my channel, feel free to give a thumbs up or even subscribe. If you have any questions, let me know and I'm happy to help you. See you in the next one. Cheers.